According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 in nearly 5 U.S. adults live with some type of mental illness. And one thing that it talked about, too, is that whites are 52% more whites are more prominent to take care and get mental health compared to people of color. Now, a lot of times that has to deal with availability and the ability to deal with that. Another statistic that I looked at was that Black and Latinx children were 15% less likely than white youth to receive treatment for their depression. 15%. Over 25% of Black youth exposed to violence have proven to be high risk for post-traumatic stress syndrome. Now, this is one thing that really stuck with me. In 2018, a study found that suicide rates of Black children between the ages of 5 and 12 were nearly twice that of white children of the same age. Now, what does a child 5 years old know that life is so bad that they want to have death by suicide, or 12? In 2022, suicide was the third leading cause of death for Black or African Americans ages 15 to 24. And then we also noticed that Black children and adolescents who died by suicide were more likely than whites to have experienced a crisis during the 2 weeks before that. Data. Now, the last statistics I want to give you is that the Black community comprises approximately 40% of the homeless population in the United States, 50% of the prison population, and 45% of the children in foster care system. Now, those are some high statistics. And what that is saying is that was stated down below with Sean and them, is that we have to start being transparent about our feelings, being transparent about I'm not in a good place. And, you know, you heard the saying before, hurt people hurt people. You know, when we are traumatized, when we are hurt, we hurt other people. We hurt our families. We hurt, you know, the community. And we have to learn to realize that I'm hurting and I need to get, you know, the services needed for that. Now, one of the things that we need to do is be transparent. But because of systemic racism, because of the way that the system is, that we've learned not to trust people. We've learned not to trust, you know, organizations. We learn not to trust systems, because when we trust them, we end up many times to be hurt by that or be betrayed by that. You heard them downstairs talking about the court system. It's not fair to men. You know, it's kind of skewed where it's always looking at that the woman is always the right person. They're always the one that, you know, are the victim. But as men, we are traumatized and dealing with a lot. You know, we're trying to take care of our families. We're trying to take care of ourselves. And we don't have the support systems that we need. We don't have things that will give us, you know, to improve our esteem. So one of the things that we need to start doing is being transparent. And one of the places that I found where men of color can be the most transparent and be honest is in the barbershop. When you go to the barbershop, it doesn't care whether you have a degree or not. It doesn't care what side of the law system that you're on. Everybody comes there and they're equal. And they talk about everything. So we need to have that type of platform, that type of organization where we can be honest with one another, but at the same time get information on how to get the needed services. In the barbershop, you know, you got police officers, you got drug dealers, you got lawyers, you got factory workers, but everybody comes there with one thing in mind, and that's to get their hair cut and just to be able to feel safe. So we need to develop a platform, an environment outside of the barbershop where we as men of color can come and talk and be real talk, you know, and at the same time find resources where we can get the needed help. And we need to come together. We cannot depend on the system. We cannot depend on the government to provide for this. You know, years ago growing up, it was the church that provided for the needs of families. It was the church and it was the pastor that talked about social injustice and how we needed to come together. So we're going to have to get back to that because we've become so dependent on money from the government and from the system. But we have enough resources. We have enough money within our own community. We just need to learn to pool it together and start supporting one another.
But seeing as that I'm sitting here with two mental health experts, I think it's important to note that your physical health and your mental health are deeply, deeply intertwined. So I'm going to answer some questions I asked myself, and then I'm going to I'm gonna use some stuff that I stole from them while they were talking. So fitness is self-care, and as a discipline. How is fitness like self-care? So he said, you know, black men, we take care of our families, we take care of a lot of people, we take care of everything, and then we neglect ourselves, right? So that's 100% true. A lot of the conversations I have with people when they come and sit down with me for a conversation is just about their daily life. One, because I'm trying to figure out like what time works best for them to come and train, what would be most comfortable, because people like to do what's comfortable. People don't like to do what's not comfortable, right? And then I probably need therapy too because I'm an ex-football guy. So I understand that, there's, we believe that we do our best, or we believe that our availability is what our schedules say, when the truth is we do have a lot more time. We just don't want to give that time up to do things that make us uncomfortable. That's just a fact. Okay. I assumed y'all was going to agree with that. But he's right about taking care of everything and neglecting ourselves. I think it's, I don't even know if this is correct. I think it's manly. Like, I think it's socially acceptable for a man to go down in flames. You know what I mean? After taking care of, the wife and the kids and the house and the business, and all of your affairs are in order, but like you dying like mentally and physically because you're not keeping any parts of the day or the thing for yourself, right? I think that's socially acceptable. Like you see guys, say, man, he just flipped out. All right. But I think it's normal, okay? And one of the reasons I think that's normal, I think it's important to look at. I'm not a mental health expert, a therapist. By the way, I just deal with people. I think that's normal because it's you learn it. A lot of different ways you learn it. You see it mimicked in front of you, or you didn't learn anything at all, and you're just going about life the best way you can, and this is just kind of where you end up, and everything you learned along the way, like that's your guidebook. And like you say, if it's, the worst thing that can happen for you is good things happen, and then you think you're right, like you think it's the right way because it's been decent. And so just, bringing that into fitness, I think emotional awareness is important. But it's hard for people to end up in situations where they really have to have conversations with themselves about who they are and what they're doing and where they're going. It don't happen a lot. I've noticed that with men, the only times that we really have these conversations with ourselves or with other guys are in times of extreme distress, right? Or if you're a client of mine, like when you're dying on my floor because I'm working you out. And so, but what happens is you start to really have conversations with yourself about what you want. What do you need? You start negotiating with yourself. What are you willing to give up to have what it is you want? Like, is this fantasy? Are we enjoying fantasy right now? Are we really like kind of like putting a plan together in our head about like where we want this life of ours to go? And I think when you're under duress, when you're stressed out, especially when it's voluntary, okay, I think it's easier to get into a space where you can have an uncomfortable conversation with yourself about who you are, right? So just in terms of, fitness being self-care, I think it's a great way to get to know like who you are and what you could handle, right? It's a great way to find out if you're a quitter. It's a great way to find out if you really want what you said you want. It's a great way to find out if you're a person that has a low price or a high price, right? Like, am I going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out at 6 like I said I was because I'm trying to drop 30 pounds by the new year and I ain't did nothing all year? Am I going to do that? That's me? Because I see myself in the mirror every day and I've done nothing. Can you say that to yourself and be like, I need to do something about this? Or are you comfortable being like where you are? We don't have these conversations with ourselves because we ain't in situations that force them. Right. So I think that fitness as therapy, I said that, I don't even know if that's correct. So fitness as therapy is a great way to run into yourself. I think everybody need that. I think it's easy to say. I typically tell my clients all the time, I wish everybody could spend 2 years in shoulder pads and a helmet. I think the world would be a better place if everybody had to spend 2 years in shoulder pads and a helmet. It'd be a lot less fights. if everybody had to spend 2 years mandatory in shoulder pads and helmets, if you tasted your own blood, or if you got hurt on a regular basis, or if somebody was whooping you on a regular basis and you couldn't do nothing about it, you'd be a different person. You would talk to people nicely because you understand it's tough outside. You understand we don't have a real gauge of where we are or who we are as people or humans in general right now. And I think a really, really good way to find out who you are in that respect, man, get yourself in a real program where somebody putting something together for you to get you where you said you wanted to be, and then you run into the goal that you put down on paper and you realize that you ain't really the person you need to be to go get that thing. That'll change you. That'll change you. Making good food choices is not equal to eating for your goal. Just because you ate a salad and chose to do that instead of eating the candy bar does not equal you did what you were supposed to do for the day. If you need an attaboy, good job with the salad. It's more true that the entire day of your eating should be in line with how you want to feel, how you want to look, and how you want to perform. Okay, so make good food choices, but like eat intentionally as well, right? Salads are not always healthy. They're lying to you. When you go out and buy these salads at fast food spots, you get lettuce, you get chicken, but a lot of times it's breaded, and they're going to give you 100 grams of fat in the dressing, so you might as well have got the pizza. So, look, it's my clients all over the library right now, like this weird. So they looking at me like, what he gonna tell them? The same thing I tell y'all. Try to eat 3 times a day if you can. Try to get over 80 ounces of water on a regular basis if you can. Try to get at least 30, 45 minutes of exercise, at least 3-4 days a week if you can. You need a coach. If you want to really get in shape and hit your goal and get healthy, you need a coach. And I know you're probably thinking, especially because if you're a dude, is I could probably do this by myself. I play football. You can't do it by yourself. You can't. You actually don't know how to work out. You think you do because you play sports, but you don't. You were only in shape because you were on program and somebody had a whistle and they made you do what you were supposed to do because you wanted to be on this team. You don't know what you're doing. I'm short on time. I'm just getting straight to it. I'm sorry. You don't know what you're doing. Okay, so you got coaches all around you. You just don't recognize that they're coaches, so you don't think you need a coach. But somebody tells you what to do with your money. Somebody tell you when to get up. Somebody tell you when you're supposed to go to work. Somebody tell you when you're supposed to go get an oil change. Somebody help you manage your finances. Somebody help you manage your home. Somebody help you put together your retirement. You need somebody to help you get your life together, sir. You need somebody to help you get in shape. You need somebody to help you lose weight. You need somebody to help you teach you how to eat so you don't die early. It's a fact.
We also have trauma that we all deal with. And trauma affects how we think, feel, behave, and manage our biological systems. Some of the traumas that we face as Black men is environmental. Some of the traumas that we face could be historic. We see the suicide rates in the African-American community rising since 2016, as you just stated. So we want to make sure that we are transparent, utilizing our resources, stuff like this. This is important. Being able to come to a Fatherhood Forum to find out what is your struggles. This is what I'm struggling with, and actually get some real help as far as how to deal with whatever struggle I am going through. When I think of mental health in the African-American community, I think of silence. Am I right or wrong? Tell me if I'm right. I really think about silence because for so long, we actually never say anything. Okay, we don't talk about our feelings because if you talk about your feelings, you're not a man. That's what girls do, or whatever the case may be. Whatever we think, whatever some of our fathers told us, we don't do. But now we are in a time and place where we need to make sure that we are talking to someone about what is bothering us. Reason being is we take things out on the people that we love the most. When we're angry, who do we yell at the first? Who's the first one to get the brunt of our anger? Person that's closest to you, your family, your wife, the kids, okay? But if we know who we are and we know our anger triggers, what makes us upset, then we can overcome a lot of the things that are small. Because we get, sometimes do we ever get upset about little small potatoes? Y'all tell me, talk to me now. Yeah, talk to me. I like conversation. Talk to me because once again, we will make a mountain out of a molehill because we're not talking about the things that are really bothering us. I know for me, I can attest to it with my wife. When I get home, she wants to have conversation and dialogue. And when I get home, I want to just be quiet. I don't want to say a word. I just want to go and be by myself. And for me, that's therapeutic. That's therapeutic for me. Actually being able to be by myself and then being able to say, okay, I'm out of my little shell now. Hey, babe, what was you saying? And she actually understands that. So also getting to know what your partner may expect and how to move around them. Another thing that we have to start doing is really dealing with some of the depressive things that we face in our lives. And that's important because depression is a silent killer. It leads to various things such as stress, which leads to heart attacks, things of that nature. But I really want to focus on that, knowing knowing where our anger comes from, knowing who we can talk to. Mr. Clark just said it best, going to the barbershop. Oh, man, I go to the barbershop every week, and I don't even have hair, okay? But I go there because of the conversation. And we were talking about a serious situation probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, something that I went through with my wife. And my barber said, man, you really need to go talk to somebody about it. That was unusual. It was very unusual. So what did I do? I actually followed up and actually received some of the help that I have been asking for and seeking for. So it's okay for us not to be okay to go and get help. Y'all understand that? It's okay not to be okay. And know that you are going to receive the help that you need. A lot of us sometimes, like I said, when we look at it, being okay, I'm actually dealing with a situation right now where a family members were shunning somebody that was having mental health issues. That's not a good thing. Because if I'm having mental health issues and you begin to shun me and tell me I don't need certain things, I don't need to talk to therapists, I may say, hey, you know what, you're absolutely right. But what happens after that? What happens after? Huh? You explode again. One of my favorite songs, and some of you guys may know it, but it said it on this in particular song. It said, this year Halloween fell on a weekend. Me and ghetto boys were trick-or-treating. And it sounds funny, but that musical song talked about mental health from 1990. So if it's telling you that we're having these issues from 1990 and we're not getting the help, and then now we are starting to see a matriculation of what went on from then to now. Now, once again, I'm going to go back to 2016. Black Caucus actually sent out a nationwide boom that said, in 10 years, the African American community is going to suicide rate is going to skyrocket. And did it? Yes. And it did it before the 10 years. When did we see a big skyrocket in black suicide? COVID. Yes. So COVID exposed a lot in us. And so with that being said, we're looking at data now when we sit on some various task force throughout the state, and we're seeing the numbers that's saying, hey, okay, not only are we having a high homicide rate, but we're having a high suicide rate. How do we get the help for not only just one thing, but when we get the help for one thing, it's going to transform into another thing. So I just want to, how much time do I have now? 3 minutes. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Do he get his rollover minutes?
Well, they gave us 30. But yeah, so we're at 30. So looking at, and I love the data that Mr. Clark actually gave, but I really want to also look at how we understand our triggers. What makes you mad? What makes you irritated? What makes you sad? Do you talk about the things that make you mad? Do you explode first, or do you just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to ignore this. And then when somebody leaves a cap off the toothpaste, boom, I'm having a huge issue. It's important to know what our triggers are, okay? And then understanding that we have to develop healthy communication patterns. It's important because, once again, if we're looking at things that make us upset as fathers or brothers or husbands, if we continue to let things consume and eat us, we may not necessarily be there for the future of our children. Because, once again, stress rates causes various different issues within us. We've seen we are prime candidates for diabetes. We're prime candidates for heart attacks, strokes, things of that nature. And so we have to make sure that we are taking care of not only our mental health, but our physical health, okay? And one thing I really want to hit home before I get out of here is once again, we've talked about it's okay not to be okay, but treating our mental health just like we would our physical health. That's important. And I mean that because we don't stigmatize those who may be suffering from cancer. We don't stigmatize those who may be suffering from diabetes. But we will go out and stigmatize somebody who is having mental health crisis. We grew up, and I know I can say for me, I grew up in a household was like, that's crazy. You don't do that. We don't do that over here. Okay, so teach me so I don't do these things. And then tell me why am I not supposed to be doing these things? You can't just say, hey, we don't do that. Well, why don't we do that? Because in my mind, my mind told me to do it. That's important. My mind told me to do it. Teach me why I should not be doing it. And working with kids for a long time, we have to really communicate and talk with them about dealing with their mental health at a younger age. Because if you deal with it young, it won't be so hard. You ain't as set in your ways at 40. Trust me, I know for a fact. I went to see the therapist the first time, and I'm struggling. And I mean that from a perspective, I don't want to do the coping skill exercise that you're making me do. I don't want to do that because in my mind, I'm right. And we take that same mentality and put it on our significant others, our wives, our kids, and whomever. So I want to make sure that we understand that, one, it's okay not to be okay. And number two, to really communicate what is bothering you so you're not having issues in the future.